Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This day in sports history. Hey there, and thanks for stopping in for another edition of This Day in Sports History. It's May 5th, and on this day in 1973, it was the greatest racehorse winning the Kentucky Derby. So, with this year's Kentucky Derby in the rearview mirror, maybe you've moved on from horse racing, at least for a few weeks until the Preakness rolls around. But it's hard not to revisit what happened on this day in 1973, when Secretariat won in dramatic and record fashion. A record crowd of more than 134,000 people were on hand to witness the Derby and to see if the horse that people were talking about and was the odds-on favorite to win was the real deal. But when the gates flew open, Secretariat didn't get a good start. In fact, when the field passed by the grandstand the first time, the colt was dead last. He was unimpressive through the first mile. But then when jockey Ron Turcotte leaned into his ear and told the horse that it was time to get moving, well, he flew down the backstretch. The horse and jockey made a move on the outside, and as they broke out of the final turn, it was Secretariat and Sham, with jockey Lafitte Pinkeye aboard, distancing themselves from the rest of the field. And then Secretariat pulling away to win by 2 lengths and doing it in a record time of 1 minute 59.4 seconds. Turcotte said he was never worried about the slow start. He said he had started slow before and won, and when I asked him to go, why, he just took off. It was a closing kick that nobody had ever seen. But this was only the first of a 3-part show that Secretariat would put on in 1973. Also on this day, a couple of Boston Celtic greats at opposite ends of their careers and several years apart put on quite a show. First, in 1969, it was Bill Russell in his final game as a Boston Celtic and his last game as player-coach against Wilt Chamberlain and the Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA Finals. It was Game 7, and the fact that Boston was still playing was a bit of a mystery. The Lakers had been heavily favored to win the title with not only Chamberlain but also Elgin Baylor and Jerry West in the lineup. But here they were, and the Celtics were able to build a 17-point advantage in the game. Then the Lakers were able to chip away at that, eventually making it a 1-point game with just under 3 minutes to play. And they actually had 3 separate possessions in which they could have taken the lead, but they just couldn't find that go-ahead bucket. And then when Don Nelson's unlikely bucket bounced high off the rim into the air and then dropped through, beating the shot clock with 1:15 to play, well, that was all the Celtics needed. The Lakers also played the last 5 minutes without Chamberlain, who injured his knee in the fourth and did not return. Well, he told Coach Butch Van Bredekoff that he was ready to go back in, but he was told, "We're doing fine without you." Ouch, that's gotta sting. Well, that left Russell free to corral any Laker misses, which there were a lot of in the final 5 minutes. Boston was able to hit a couple of free throws down the stretch to win 108-106 and claim their 11th title in 13 years. The Celtics win spoiled a 42-point effort by Jerry West, who, despite being on the losing end of the series, was named Finals MVP. Bill Russell scored 6 points and grabbed 19 rebounds. It was his second straight NBA title as a player-coach and his final game as a Celtic. And then in 1981, it was the Celtics' Larry Bird playing in his first NBA Finals game, hitting one of the most memorable shots of his career. Boston was down 3 in the fourth against Houston. Bird put up an 18-footer, but he immediately realized that the shot was off the mark. He calculated where the rebound would be, rushed to that spot on the baseline, leapt, grabbed the rebound in his right, switched it to his left as he was falling out of bounds, and put up the shot. It went in, and that sparked the Celtics to the 98-95 win in Game 1 at the Garden. Celtics GM Red Auerbach called it the greatest basketball play he had ever seen. Also on this day in 1904, it was 37-year-old Cy Young pitching the first perfect game in the 20th century. By this point in his career, Young was already the winningest pitcher in the history of baseball. In this game, he overpowered the Philadelphia Athletics, striking out 8. And none of the 27 batters he faced that day came close to reaching base. This was the third recorded perfect game in Major League history, but it was the first from the pitching distance of 60 feet 6 inches. The previous two had been thrown in the 1880s, when pitchers threw from just 45 feet away. Cy Young's effort on this day was also part of not allowing a hit in 25 innings, a record that still stands today. And time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia, has the largest collection of ticks and is home to the U.S. National Tick Collection. That's all for now. I'll be back tomorrow with more This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.